Today we're diving into 5 true tales of neighbors that'll make you want to build a fortress around your house. Number 1. The Lawn Tyrant. Let's kick things off with a guy we'll call the Lawn Tyrant. This dude's grass was greener than a leprechaun's underpants, and he guarded it like Fort Knox. But his obsession went way beyond normal lawn care. It all started when he asked a neighborhood kid to house sit. Sounds innocent, right? Wrong. This nutjob left a list of demands longer than a CVS receipt. The poor kid had to turn lights on and off at specific times, use a stick with a loop to flip switches, because heaven forbid you step inside, and water plants with a teeny tiny watering can. But here's the kicker, no stepping on the precious lawn. Oh, and the Lawn Tyrant implied he'd be watching, taking pictures if the kid messed up. Talk about creepy. When the parents found out, they noped out of that deal faster than you can say. Restraining order. But our grass-obsessed friend wasn't done. He tried to fight the family and, get this, said he'd let it go if he could spank the kid. Yeah, you heard that right. From there, things went downhill faster than a toboggan on an ice slope. He started saying wives shouldn't have friends, scattered screws to pop snow-plow tires, and even threatened to shoot a neighbor's new puppy. The whole neighborhood on edge, documenting his behavior because they're worried this lawn-loving lunatic's gonna snap. Number 2. The ex who wouldn't let go. Our next tale is a classic case of don't judge a book by its cover. Or in this case, don't trust a stranger in an elevator. Picture this, you're half asleep, clutching your coffee like it's the elixir of life, when a chatty guy jumps in. He's gushing about his girlfriend Amy, planning something special for her birthday. Sweet, right? Fast forward a few days, and you meet the real Amy. Plot twist, she's terrified and definitely doesn't have a boyfriend. Turns out, the elevator guy was her psycho ex who'd been stalking her for months. This creep had been showing up at her work, blowing up her phone, and now he'd figured out where she lived. Poor Amy had to file police reports, but without enough evidence, she couldn't get a restraining order. She ended up having to pack up and move just to escape this nut job. It's a stark reminder that sometimes the scariest monsters aren't hiding in the shadows, they're right there in broad daylight, smiling and making small talk. Number 3. The Tree Bark Terror. Our storyteller recalls a childhood encounter that'll make your skin crawl. Picture a kid, innocently picking bark off a tree, when suddenly a guy appears out of nowhere. This dude smelled like he'd been marinating in an ashtray, with yellow teeth and a lazy eye that seemed to have a mind of its own. He gets weirdly intense about the tree bark, asking the kid how they'd feel if someone peeled off their skin. Red flag city, right? Luckily, a neighbor called the kid inside before things got worse. But here's where it gets really twisted. Years later, the truth came out. This weirdo had been stalking our storyteller as a child. When cops finally caught him, they found a van that looked like a shrine to the kid, photos plastered everywhere. But wait, it gets worse. They also found a storage unit that was straight out of a horror movie. We're talking restraints, knives, medical equipment, the works. This sicko had been planning to kidnap the kid. It's a chilling reminder that sometimes the monsters hiding in plain sight are the scariest of all. Number 4. Pete the Wolf in Sheep's Clothing. Now let's talk about Pete. On the surface, he seemed like your average Joe, well-dressed, friendly, nothing out of the ordinary. He'd hang out, have a few drinks, swap stories, normal neighbor stuff. No creep vibes, no red flags, just a regular dude. Until the day the cops showed up and hauled him away in handcuffs. At first folks figured it was probably something minor, maybe unpaid parking tickets or a bar fight. But curiosity got the better of our storyteller, who decided to look up the charges online. And boy, did that decision pack a punch. Pete, the seemingly normal guy next door, had been arrested for one of the most horrific crimes imaginable, child rape. The victim was under 13. Let that sink in for a moment. It's a gut-wrenching reminder that sometimes the worst monsters wear the best disguises. They blend in, act normal, and you never suspect a thing until it's too late. Pete was convicted and will spend the rest of his life behind bars, but the shock of his true nature left the entire neighborhood reeling. Number 5. Meth Mike and the Midnight Dog Walks. Our final tale starts innocently enough. A pregnant woman and her husband are enjoying a late-night chat on their apartment balcony when they hear something odd. A man's voice, muttering to himself, coming from the floor below. Enter Mike. He appears out of the darkness, looking like he's been rode hard and put away wet. His eyes are darting around like ping-pong balls, but he's got a friendly smile and a beautiful blue heeler dog. Weird combo, right? Mike starts rambling about his ex-wife, Dulles, and babies. It's clear the lights are on, but nobody's home upstairs, if you know what I mean. The husband, picking up on the meth vibes, tries to end the conversation, but Mike's persistent. Over the next few weeks, Mike keeps popping up at odd hours. He corners the pregnant woman in the parking lot, telling her how beautiful her daughter will be and warning her never to get divorced. Creep factor, rising. But the real kicker comes one night at 3:30 a.m. There's a knock at the door. Our pregnant protagonist waddles over to check the peephole, and guess what she sees? Mike's eye, staring right back at her. Talk about nightmare fuel. The cops get involved, and here's where it gets really twisted. Turns out, Mike had some serious PTSD from his time in the military, mixed with a nasty meth habit. And just 2 nights after the peephole incident, he was arrested for sexually assaulting another pregnant woman in her home, just 2 buildings down. That's all for today. If you enjoyed these terrifying tales, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. And hey, if you've got any creepy hiking stories of your own, drop them in the comments.